Talk about freaks. That's Orlando Jordan.
Meet Orlando Jordan. He has been wrestling on and off for over 25 years all over the world, but most notably in WWE, where he arguably had the most success throughout his entire career, winning the United States Championship while being involved with JBL during his WWE Championship reign. After he was released in 2006, Jordan would work throughout various independent promotions all over the world before signing a contract in 2010 with Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, or TNA for short. What would happen during this run and what we are going to cover in today's video was so different for its time, or any time for that matter, that many cage match users actively avoid the gimmick ever since. And that is what we are going to be discussing today. If you do enjoy this video and you want to see more videos about random stuff that comes to mind in regards to pro wrestling, be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And with that being said, let's get right into it. As I mentioned before, Orlando Jordan wrestled for WWE from 2001 to 2006. A good chunk of that time was spent in Ohio Valley Wrestling, which at the time was WWE's developmental territory for many years. It's basically the equivalent of what NXT is now. He got called up to SmackDown in 2003 to face John Cena inside the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, where he lost to Cena in a valiant effort and even got an endorsement from The Undertaker, which was similar to what The Undertaker did for Cena a year prior. Jordan would appear sporadically throughout WWE for the next year or so before showing up in August 2004 and aligning himself with then WWE champion JBL to form the Cabinet, a stable also including the Bastion brothers to ensure that JBL held on to the WWE title for as long as possible. During this time, he would beat John Cena to win the United States Championship and even hold the title for about 6 months before losing the title to Chris Bent. Oh God, I'm sorry. This guy right here at SummerSlam, in about 25 seconds, he lost the title. After this, and a few other short losses to him on various episodes of SmackDown, he would make a few minor appearances on SmackDown and their C-Show Velocity before getting released on May 26, 2006, for bringing unauthorized guests backstage. He would make the rounds on the independent circuit like most wrestlers do after their release from WWE, but only seemed to wrestle overseas, most notably in Italy with the New Wrestling Evolution promotion, with whom he would go on to be the final opponent of the Ultimate Warrior in 2008. He would then go on to work the infamous Hulkamania tour in Australia, and this is where I would assume he'd get his foot in the door with TNA. The Hulkamania tour was a tour that took place in Australia and was obviously promoted by wrestling icon Hulk Hogan, as well as former WCW executive Eric Bischoff. This was done, in my opinion, purely to stroke the ego of Hogan, as he would drag a 60-year-old Ric Flair out of a retirement, beat him on all 4 nights of the tour. Hogan, as well as Bischoff, would join TNA shortly after this tour concluded, and they ended up signing a lot of guys used during the tour, as good old Dixie Carter gave Hogan a lot of power to do so. Some of the names who were signed by Hogan from the tour included Sean Morley, who you may know as Val Venus in WWE, Mr. Anderson, who was known as Mr. Kennedy in WWE, the Nasty Boys, Shannon Moore, and the main subject of this video, Orlando Jordan. The same night that Hogan and Bischoff made their debuts for TNA, Jordan would make his debut for the company in a backstage segment. However, outside of a random-ass win versus Samoa Joe in February, and no, I am not bullshitting you, Jordan was rarely seen on television until the March 29th edition of Impact, where he would debut his new gimmick in what was certainly one of the debuts in the history of professional wrestling.
What's going on here? You got me.
What? You thought I was done? You thought you kicked me out? I ain't going
What? From the top of the impact zone?
It looked like Orlando Jordan, I think.
It's Orlando Jordan.
What the hell is he wearing?
It's like that caution tape? Oh, it's TNA cross the line caution tape.
The women love me, and the guys want to get with me. Orlando Jordan!
I've seen this entrance many times over the last 14 years or so, and I still don't think I have the words to actually describe it. But one thing I can definitely say is that this theme song was a fucking banger, and you cannot tell me otherwise.
What? From the top of the impact zone?
Jordan debuted this new gimmick centered around his sexuality, where in real life he is openly bisexual. Apparently he pitched the gimmick to WWE and they turned him down, and given how wrestling fans were in the mid-2000s, they would have called this guy slurs I would have never even imagined before, so I'd say it ended up being a good call in hindsight. What was funny is that less than 2 weeks after this entrance, TNA signed Jordan to a multi-year contract, so that one entrance was enough in Hogan's eyes to warrant a hefty extension. 2010 TNA was something else, man, my gosh. Anyways, he would debut his talk show segment on May 3rd titled The Ozone, during which he would attack Rob Terry, the reigning global champion at the time, and set up a program with the two where they heavily leaned into Jordan's sexuality to build tension and heat for the rivalry. Back then, there wasn't any pushback, but if they tried this nowadays, Rob Terry might have been exiled from the industry because, though it is a blatant sexual harassment and storyline, Terry's mannerisms and aggression throughout, as well as the Orlando crowd not taking a great liking to Jordan's character at all, makes this entire thing look insane in today's day and age. The craziest accusations imaginable would be thrown. The craziest part of this entire program for me was that one segment that I showed you at the beginning of this video, where Jordan was shooting a white substance onto himself to make it look like someone just ejaculated all over his chest, for lack of a less awkward term. This would lead to a match at TNA's May pay-per-view Sacrifice, where Terry would beat Jordan in less than 8 minutes to retain the global title. This would be the first and last significant program TNA would involve Orlando Jordan in. The only other notable program he would be involved in throughout his TNA tenure would be one with Eric Young, who was involved in an angle where he took a bump on the head and due to that became mentally challenged. And I am not making this shit up, bro. This is 2010 TNA. It is out there for you to research. TNA paired Young and Jordan together to make some sort of odd couple, where Jordan was infatuated with EY, while EY had no clue whatsoever in regards to Jordan's interests. This was mostly comedy relief, and I do think it kind of aged alright, because I still remember some segments, and I still chuckle at them from time to time. Like, there were segments where he was using a shake weight randomly, or the one time during a therapy segment, he said his family disowned him because he was bi, and EY said he was bipolar.
Eric, look, I have something to tell you. You know, I'm bi. Polar! Yes! I diagnosed you with that months ago.
Pretty lowbrow shit for the most part, but for what it was, parts of it were funny to me. There were other parts that I thought were kind of odd or stereotypical, like him dressing up as a Hooters girl or grinding on his opponents, but the gimmick was meant to lean into sexuality, so I can't say too much. Young and Jordan tagged for a while as well. A lot of it, though, was kept off of national TV for the most part, and almost exclusively on TNA's YouTube show, Explosion. The one thing of note that I can say about Orlando Jordan and Eric Young is that they beat the Young Bucks in less than 3 minutes on an episode of Impact near the end of 2010. Once again, 2010 TNA was insanity in the absolute worst ways. Outside of that, Jordan and Young made one appearance on pay-per-view as filler in a tag team steel cage match. The team would quietly dissolve, and Jordan would be released by TNA on July 11th, 2011, 15 months after signing a deal for multiple years. For anyone wondering, Orlando Jordan does still wrestle to this day, albeit as more of a part-timer. He pretty much only wrestles in Australia, as that's where he resides nowadays, and it's only for the All-Star Wrestling promotion. His last match as of this recording was June 15th, 2024, and he's only had 5 matches this year so far. The gimmick nowadays comes across as a very hypersexual version of the Velveteen Dream, and I think if it was toned down a little bit, it would have been a pretty sizable act on the independents today when you look at acts like Effie. For the time though, it got people talking about TNA for better or worse during a time where they were already talking about them for the worst due to Hogan taking over. A lot of the things I saw live with this gimmick when I was around 8 or 9 definitely flew over my head, but revisiting it years later was so crazy, because during a time where wrestling fans were about as closed-minded as they've ever been, TNA presumably gave Jordan a hefty amount of creative control that led to innuendo about cum shots and wanting to take advantage of a mentally challenged person on national television, and presented that to an audience that Spike TV had spent years cultivating as a male-dominated viewership, who would play COD, drink Mountain Dew, and buy naked magazines of girls. It was harmless mostly, and about 65 to 70% of that was used as comedy relief that didn't affect TNA's bottom line. And I rate this easily, honestly, as one of the better signings than a lot of the dopes that Hogan brought in during this time, like Sean Morley or the fucking Nasty Boys. Long story short, if you had any gripe with Orlando Jordan or any of the other signings that TNA made in 2010, blame Hulk Hogan for all of it. Blame Hulk Hogan for pulling Ric Flair out of retirement and wasting the greatest retirement of all time. Blame Hulk Hogan for killing any form of momentum TNA ever had. And blame Hulk Hogan for simply existing, because his mere existence past 2003 has turned any form of professional wrestling that he has taken part of into a complete fucking joke. And I will never forgive Hulk Hogan for what he's done to my glorious TNA, man. We should have been competing with the E by now. Fuck Hulk Hogan and everything that miserable cocksucker stands for. And fuck that druggy dude who paralyzed that one dude. But yeah, that was Orlando Jordan and the craziest gimmick that professional wrestling has ever seen. What do you think? Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you thought about this video, as I look for all feedback, positive or negative. If you did enjoy it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, so you don't miss out on future videos. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.